John Harbaugh finally gave a slimmer of hope that Keaton Mitchell could play for the Baltimore Ravens starting this week. And if he plays, that is the right decision for the Ravens. We talk about that and so much more coming up on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Ravens. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for being here on this Purple Friday, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. Thank you out there to all the everydayers, the first-time listeners. If you're somewhere in the middle, thank you as well. 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage here on Locked On Ravens. Jam-packed episode today. A lot of people are getting fed up with how this Ravens team is operating right now. 1-3. They're staring 1-4 in the face. They got injuries galore. A couple former NFL players certainly made their minds up about where this Ravens team is right now. Some backed by stats, others backed by vibes. And honestly, I don't think either was wrong at this point. We'll also dive into the injury situation for the Ravens. It just continues to get worse and it's piling on guy after guy. And then as well, we'll dive into a little bit of a Ravens-Texans preview for week number 5. Want to tell everybody today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward Mazda Move and Be Moved. Here with me, it is Sam Njoku of the Ravens Talk podcast and the Locked On Ravens Squad show. And Sam, man, the Ravens need this win. Not just for their record, but for the vibes. The vibes are just awful. We need some happiness, some hope. And while the Ravens got a couple of guys back at practice on Thursday, which we'll talk about, there were some other notes that were not as happy for this Ravens team and everything that's going on right now.
I think I'm about to just block injury report on social media. I don't want to see the injury report. Every time I see it, it's just more depressing news after depressing news. So I think I might make that conscientious effort to just save myself that heartache. But yeah, you're right. This Ravens game is a must-win territory. Not even for the record, but for the vibes. Fans are down. You can tell the coaches are down. Players are certainly down. So bad times all around, but definitely enough time to turn things around.
Hey, it might save your eyes because you got to squint on that thing to actually see the players that are on there, or at least zoom in like 5 billion times. The Ravens right now, yeah, it's a CVS receipt. We'll talk about that a little later because it is kind of crazy how we're only a month into the season and somehow over 25% of the roster is currently on the injury report, which another name was added. So we'll talk about that. And there was actually some kind of weird context added to Kyle Hamilton's injury. So we'll dive into that as well. But in the first part of the show, a former NFL quarterback, he exposed the stat for this Baltimore Ravens team that kind of just tells you the story about what this Ravens team has been this season, just weird usage of their players and weird scheme choices. And honestly, Sam, offense hasn't really been the problem for the Ravens. It's been the defense, but offensively, it wasn't a great showing in week number 4. We know that the Ravens kind of got it going on the ground when they were using it, but alas, they decided not to really use it. It's the Kansas City special for Baltimore, I guess, as the Ravens averaged 9.8 yards per attempt, only 17 carries. You take out Justice Hill's 71-yard run, and you're still averaging 6 yards a carry. That's still impressive numbers. Now, Dan Orlovsky, he wanted to add context then, and he said that he's usually not a numbers guy, but I thought this was important to talk about. Dan saying the Ravens with Derrick Henry are the 32nd ranked offense when it comes to giving the ball to their running back on 1st and 2nd down. So obviously, when you think about 1st and 10, sometimes you want to just make it a 2nd and manageable, or maybe you want to hand the ball off to your running back on 2nd down, make it 3rd and short potentially. So they don't do that. Again, they're the worst team in the league at handing their ball to their running back on 1st and 2nd down. But when they do it, they are 2nd in the NFL in yards per carry with 6 yards per carry. And I'm just saying, Sam, the saying is like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? You do something, it works. Hey, go and do it again. Oh, it works again. Hey, go and do it again. Well, it's working for the Ravens. The problem is they are not doing that. And John Harbaugh is very critical of Todd Monken and some of his personnel decisions. And Monken clarified that was something he and Harbaugh had talked about. That was, there was nothing that blindsided him there. But it just gives you context into like, what are these decisions that are happening right now? And why, again, are the Baltimore Ravens beating the Baltimore Ravens?
One word, malpractice. I mean, it's just a total, I can't even explain the reason behind that. Those numbers add up because the Ravens are a phenomenal run team. So it doesn't matter if they're running on first down, second down, or third down. They're going to be doing things to move the ball down the field with Derrick Henry. When you have last year the second best running back, it wasn't for this historic season that Saquon Barkley had, all eyes would be on what Derrick Henry was doing in Baltimore, rejuvenating his career under the tutelage of Todd Monken, who deserves that credit, as well as Lamar Jackson, the quarterback opposite him, who's making those lanes available for him. So I don't understand why the Ravens aren't running the ball more. Not only are they not running the ball on first or second down, they're not running the ball on third and short, on fourth and short situations. They're not running the ball on fourth down. They're not running the ball on 2-point conversions. They're not taking advantage of their weapon, their best weapon, who for sure is their best weapon if Lamar Jackson is unable to play in this contest. So hopefully that those numbers change. It will have to change against the Houston Texans and whatever team they play moving forward, because they cannot afford to continue to lose these games. Now, the competition gets a lot less severe and upcoming. There's really aren't any big-time games that the Ravens really need to worry about, except for the Los Angeles Rams in Week 6 for the remainder of the season. I mean, well, you can take the Packers. The Packers are going to be a problem later down the road, Week 17. But for the most part, the Ravens have smooth sailing ahead, but they cannot. It doesn't matter if you're playing the Cleveland Browns, the Miami Dolphins, or the Detroit Lions. If you're not running the football, if you're not creating that problem for our defense coordinators to have, you're killing yourself. You're losing the game before the game even starts.
I'll tell you, even there's worse context to it. Is, it was revealed, Sarah Ellison put this together. Derrick Henry's 49 rushing attempts ranked 20th across the NFL, but his 5.8 yards per carry average, that's number 3 among all running backs with 15 plus attempts. You're right. Like, they're not taking advantage of the players they have on the field. And I know the comments even last year from John Harbaugh got a lot of controversy when he said we didn't bring Derrick in here to, run the ball 30 times a game and kind of have that all happen. Well, I don't think he also brought him in to run the ball like 9 times a game either. Like, you have to find some like 18, 20 carries. Cause again, that is your identity, even if it's a much more balanced offense than what we saw in the Greg Roman era, right? I mean, you're a run first offense. It should continue to be that way. They've obviously evolved the way that they do things, but I think that they just either get really cute on a lot of these things, or they just kind of teeter to the opposite side way too much. And it ends up costing them, when sometimes you just have to keep it simple. Do what you do. How'd you get to the AFC Championship game in 2023? You ran the ball. Why'd you lose the AFC Championship game? Because you didn't run the ball. I mean, it's those types of things that feels like happen year after year. And I feel like if the Ravens just simplify things, it could all just be so much better for them. And, honestly, Sam, John Harbaugh, he talked on Wednesday and kind of kept the door open a little bit for Keaton Mitchell. He was asked about if, what are the maybe prospects of Keaton Mitchell potentially being up with the numbers game on Sunday. And instead of saying like, oh no, we don't have enough space, this, that, and the other, he actually said, as far as Keaton, yes, there is a chance of that as well. So actually maybe some hope for the Ravens to not only run the ball a little more with Derrick Henry, because Todd Monken did also say that, hey, you know what, you got to run the ball a little more. He was very clear about that through his press conference, but maybe they can also get Keaton Mitchell involved if he's active. I think that even that little sliver of hope is a change from what we've heard from John Harbaugh on that front. You and I talked about it last week. We both believe that Keaton Mitchell could be a big asset to this team, especially if they do start running the ball more and he's up.
Give me a second. Is this thing on?
Yeah,
you better play Keaton Mitchell.
There you go.
You better play Keaton Mitchell. There's no excuse for not having him play the first 4 weeks of the season. There certainly isn't a place to have any type of opinion if you do not play Keaton Mitchell with the loss of Lamar Jackson, with what's going on with your running game, or your run defense. Keep the ball away from the opposing offense. If your defense is struggling, how do you do that? You control the time of possession. You run the ball and you do it effectively. You got that part down. You choose not to do it. You choose not to run the ball. So Keaton Mitchell, added bonus. We know the reason that the Ravens are giving us for why Keaton Mitchell isn't on field is because the opposing defense knows exactly what you're going to do. Yeah, they're going to know you're going to run the ball. So better have your best player out there to do it than Keaton Mitchell when Derrick Henry needs to spell, when you're on a long distance, when you need a spark, whatever the case may be. Keaton Mitchell needs to be on the field. He's a threat. Maybe you have Derrick Henry and Keaton Mitchell on the field. I've heard people talk about that. That's a great idea. Have Derrick Henry line up at fullback. He's big enough. Whatever it takes to get it done. Keaton Mitchell needs to play. If he doesn't play, I am going to lose it, Kevin. I am going to lose it.
You are not alone. You are not alone. We will, you know what, if he doesn't play and the Ravens lose in the Texans game in week 5, we're going to come on a squad show after the game, which we always do. And we're going to have to talk about, hey, you know who could have helped you? Keaton Mitchell. But again, I think it adds so much context because I think that Derrick Henry benefits from having Keaton Mitchell up. I think Keaton Mitchell benefits from having Derrick Henry on the field. Like you said, maybe they're on the field together. But we talked all offseason about how exciting it was going to be to have the 3-headed monster of Derrick Henry, Justice Hill, and Keaton Mitchell, and how each of those guys provides like such different skill sets and keeps defenses on their toes. And we saw in week 3 how the Lions used like Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. And I'm not saying that like Keaton Mitchell is up to the level of a Jahmyr Gibbs or Montgomery at this point in his career, but he's still a really good player. And he showed, the crazy part is it's not like he had a terrible preseason and everyone's like, does he still have it? No, he was really good in the action we saw from him in the preseason, showing what he could do. So again, it was a tone shift from John Harbaugh from what we had heard from him over the last handful of weeks about, it's really tough. He would have to do this. We don't have enough room. He just straight up was like, yeah, there's a chance. And while that's not guaranteeing he's going to be up on Sunday, it's at least better than we'd have to kind of move some stuff around. It feels like there's a lot better of a chance with that. But I also was glad that Monken acknowledged the fact that, yeah, how you get the run game going is you need to do it a little more. So I expect to see a heavy dose of the run game on Sunday, with or without Keaton Mitchell. But coming up in the second part of the show, we'll dive into the Ravens injury situation. It keeps getting worse. Former players still are just fed up with this team right now. So be sure to stay tuned. We got a lot coming your way on Locked On Ravens. This episode is brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that make the neighborhood the neighborhood. These are the places that become an extension of home, whether it's the sports bar dedicated to your team's fan base, the spot with the best wings in town for game day, or that beloved local chain that's been rooted in your community for years. These businesses are what bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. And sports are something that bring neighborhoods together, whether it's gathering for game day rituals, celebrating with the best wings in town, or just being a part of a fan base that calls a place home. And in Baltimore, Fed Hill, Be More Licks. Fed Hill is absolutely incredible on game days. Everybody's supporting the Ravens. Everybody's in team colors. The whole area is jumping. So Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/LockedOnNFL to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward for those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is, in my opinion, Justice Hill. He had a couple of big ones in that Kansas City game, despite the fact that it was not a good game for the Ravens. Justice Hill starting off strong with a touchdown on the Ravens' opening possession, and then he had a long touchdown run at the end of that game, and it was admittedly out of hand. But, Justice, he kept moving forward even throughout the game, and, even though the Ravens lost, all you can do is move forward. Hopefully the Ravens can perform better next week, but those were positive moments in this game. And I think that Justice Hill, Ravens fans, everybody should move forward and look ahead to that week 5 matchup with Houston. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Back on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher. Still here with Sam Njoku, talking Ravens football with you 5 days a week, plus more here on Locked On Ravens. Regular Locked On Ravens show Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern time. We have bonus episodes on the weekends when the headlines permit. And I'll just tell you right now, there are a lot of headlines during the season, so we're doing a lot of bonus episodes on the weekend. We also have the Locked On Ravens squad show with Sam and I, as well as Kajir Smile, former Ravens receiver, So we have that on Wednesdays at 7:30 Eastern time live, as well as after games live. But speaking of game day, we have the Locked On Ravens watch-alongs. We have the instant reaction shows. Then we have the squad show. So it's like 6 straight hours of content over here on the Locked On Ravens channel on game day. So be sure to hit the like and subscribe button in video form and follow along in audio form. Again, Sam, the injury report, you said it. Just we might have to just block it out at this point. It's that sad of something right now where you're just anticipating bad news every day. I think it's literally just been like a week straight, 2 weeks straight of bad news in some way, shape, or form. Probably even honestly more than that. But so the Ravens got a bit of good news on Thursday with the injuries, as Nate Wiggins, Tez Walker, and Ronnie Stanley all returned to practice in a limited fashion. So at least that was good. But the Ravens, I put out the stat yesterday, with their 13 players on the injury report on Wednesday, that was about 25% of their active roster, not to mention the 9 other players they have on injured reserve or some form of an injured list. So 22 injured players through 4 weeks. You can add Odafe Oweh to that list, as he was a new addition to the injury report on Thursday with an eye injury. He was limited in practice. We also got context on Kyle Hamilton's injury. That injury happened in practice on Wednesday, and he was actually a downgrade. He was limited on Wednesday. He did not practice at all on Thursday. Lamar Jackson was not out there. Either was Chidobe Marlon Humphrey, also Patrick Ricard, Roquan Smith. Now, good news, again, Kyle Van Noy, full practice, really good sign. Brent Urban, full practice, really good sign. Tyler Linderbaum, full practice, really good sign. It feels like I just talked for a bajillion minutes about injuries. I mean,
A little bit.
It's such a long list. And at this point honestly, the Ravens are the only team dealing with it, which is also crazy. Like, there's just been so many injuries across the league this year. Yeah. It lowers your floor and lowers your ceiling. I'm not using it as an excuse, but again, if a lot of these guys can't play, and that seems to be the expectation for a lot of those DNPs on Thursday, young players are going to have to step up to the absolute max.
Yeah, the only player that I'm giving a little bit of hope for that's on the DNP is Kyle Hamilton. He was limited yesterday. Maybe they're trying to rest him up. He's a guy who's smart. He knows the defense, so they can afford to keep him out of practice on Thursday. I think Friday will be telling for him, but most of the time, my philosophy is if you're not playing on Thursday, you're not playing on Sunday. So I think those DNPs that didn't practice on Thursday, they're highly unlikely to play on Sunday, besides that Kyle Hamilton situation. But yeah, injuries are a big thing. I think we've talked about the lapses that this coaching staff has had, but I mean, you can only play who you got out there. And we've talked about the depth of this team. Depth is one thing, but totally revamping your team. I mean, there's key positions that are Roquan's probably not playing. We talked about Kyle Hamilton not playing. Chidobe Awuzie, who knows? Maybe he plays, maybe he doesn't. I mean, we go on to the offensive line. Roquan Smith limited in action, not Roquan, I'm sorry. Ronnie Stanley limited in action, but his ankle injury doesn't seem like he's looking 100%. His likelihood is probably higher than most, but we'll see. The fact of the matter is there's key positions. Quarterback, they didn't even talk about Lamar Jackson. He's the main guy. You got Cooper Rush playing. So we don't know what this team is going to look like overall. You can have a couple of guys missing here or there, but when you have pieces upon pieces, big-time All-Pros, Pro Bowlers, contributors, big-time contributors looking for big-time contracts, out not playing, it takes its toll. So you're right. Floor is going to lower, ceiling is going to lower. The coaching staff is going to be the one to have to bring this team up. We see it with big-time coaches like Andy Reid, Bill Belichick when he was coaching with the Patriots. He's done more of less. The Ravens don't usually do that. They don't usually do more of less. They do what you got is what you get kind of type of deal, or what you got is less than what you get. So the Ravens are going to have to change that philosophy on with this coaching staff. You got to get the best out of these young guys. There's a reason you drafted them. There's a reason you signed them. Hopefully they come through. I'm optimistic that the young guys can get it done because they are facing the Texas team, and I'm sure we'll get to it, that isn't as great as the Lions or Chiefs or Bills, but yeah, it's not looking good. This injury bug is hitting them. Coming at the right time, though. The bye is coming up. So if the Ravens can split these next 2 games, they're in a good spot after the bye.
It is crazy. Like, the best case scenario that I think all Ravens fans are hoping for is that split. I think everybody's abandoned hope of 2-0. It's possible. Like, of course, like anything can happen. Sports are crazy. So, we could be sitting here saying the Ravens are about to lose all these games, all these injuries, and then they just absolutely like dominate somehow. And then they go 2-0. Is that likely? Of course it's not. But even still, so many key players being out or injured. And again, I think that the context surrounding the injuries is also really, really important because, for example, like we saw it with Isaiah Likely, him coming back, or Ronnie Stanley warming up on Sunday before the Chiefs game. Those guys clearly, like, they were kind of easing Likely in. Stanley clearly wasn't 100% healthy. So, like, if these guys do play, yes, how much of their peak version of themselves are they actually going to be? Like, for Stanley, if he plays, is he going to only be like 80% and then have to leave in the first half, and then you're back in your same situation? That's also, I think, important context. But yeah, it's interesting. Like with Lamar, we keep getting all these different injury updates and kind of timelines. We've gotten probably, man, at this point, what, like 3 different timelines? We got another one on Thursday from Josina Anderson, who said that Lamar Jackson is not currently expected to play this Sunday versus the Texans, nor next week versus the Rams. Now, Josina says outside of faster healing, which can still be deceptive. Then the bye week is after that. So she's saying that essentially is a good, safe window to help better ensure the hamstring doesn't really appear later in the season when it counts more. I mean, you hope later in the season does mean something, because if they lose these games and start losing, rest of the season is not going to mean a ton, because even if Lamar comes back, they'd probably be so far out of playoff contention in the first place. But I don't think Lamar plays on Sunday. I'm not sure about next week. That's honestly kind of too far for me to predict right now, and I don't really know anything. No one really knows anything. But you can kind of tell, Sam, we talked about it on the squad show and everything, that tension in that building has to be at an all-time high, considering John Harbaugh's recent comments and his moods. Obviously the tone is very much like, hey, we're down about us as a team. They still believe, but the vibes right now, if you're not on the same page, if you're looking as dejected as they have in these games and almost like defeated, that's another big thing that can cause you to kind of slip up. And when you don't have trust in the guys behind you or trust in your coaching staff, that's also something that can impact your play on the field.
It certainly can. I'm very interested to see what this Ravens team does in this contest coming up against the Houston Texans, because again, not a lot of players are playing. Not a lot of the guys that we know, they have a chance. I'm not totally against the Ravens winning this game, and maybe not even the next game. Let's see how they do against this Houston Texans team before I push the Rams envelope a little bit. But you got Lamar Jackson. I mean, you don't got Lamar Jackson, but you got Lamar Jackson under center for the majority of your time as a head coach during that 2019 to 2025 stretch. Now you got Cooper Rush. You do have pieces around you if they stay healthy on the offense. You got Derrick Henry still. Zay Flowers is healthy. Rashod Bateman's healthy. Tez Walker looks like he's practicing. He's going to be healthy. DeAndre Hopkins healthy. Isaiah Likely healthy finally. Mark Andrews healthy. So the core around you is set for success on the offensive side of the ball. You're just missing the main piece. Yes, he is the biggest piece that there ever was as far as being the QB in this league in Lamar Jackson. But you still got the pieces around you to help Cooper Rush out here. So, yeah, I understand that the vibes are low in Baltimore. I get it. If I'm a head coach, the seat has never been truly hot. Let's be honest. I mean, 2017 was the last time that Harbaugh's seat was hot. And then in comes Lamar Jackson, saves his job, saves the day, saves the franchise. All is forgiven. And, you've been close, but haven't really reached the mountaintop in recent memory. Expectations, and you and I talked about the both on the Raven Squad show and this show. Expectations were here. John Harbaugh didn't really understand or appreciate the significance of those expectations. He certainly does now, because our expectations have lowered, but the expectation of what we want from the head coach has never been higher, especially now where we're going to lean more on coaching, as I mentioned in the first part of the show, than ever before for a team. This is going to be the coach's game. Forget the players. The coach is going to have to put up a masterful game plan together to hold off this 1-4 start. The Ravens cannot afford to do it, but yeah, you mentioned it. Injuries are catastrophic. Vibes are low. I'm not giving up on this team yet, but it's up to John Harbaugh, Tom Monken, Zachary Orr, who's been terrible the first 2 years as a DC to get it together for this team to have any chance at the postseason.
Texans, Rams, Bears, Dolphins, Vikings, Browns, Jets, Bengals, Steelers, Patriots, Packers, Steelers. The Ravens have the 9th easiest strength of schedule remaining across the league. And of course, it helps when you take out teams like the 4-0 Bills and the 3-1 Lions from your schedule there. But, the schedule does open up a little bit. So season definitely not over. But look, if they keep playing like they are, they're not going to win a lot of games moving forward. So they got to shore things up. Coming up in the final part of the show, we'll talk about a little Ravens and Texans preview, as that Week 5 game means a lot for both these teams. So be sure to stay tuned. A lot coming up on Locked On Ravens.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go, while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Locked On Ravens here. Kevin Oestreicher, Sam Njoku. We're still diving into Ravens content and coverage. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button again for 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage. You can also be sure to check out the Locked On Ravens Squad show twice per week, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesdays, as well as just after games in general. That's myself, Sam, and former Ravens receiver Kadri Ismail. So, man, I wish the season was off to a better start, Sam. Of course, it's not over yet. The Ravens have a big opportunity in week number 5 against the Houston Texans. Now, we know the big story is Lamar Jackson. Will he play? Will he not? It's not looking like he will, but, no official word at the time we're recording this. How different do you expect the offense to look with Cooper Rush and everything that he does compared to the player we know Lamar Jackson is and everything he can bring to the table?
It's going to look very different. I think the writing's on the wall. The Ravens are going to run the ball and run it often. They better. They better against this defense. I mean, I'm looking at film. I almost finished with the full film review, but I'm telling you, Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, Azeez Al-Shaair, those guys are keeping me up at night because they are game wreckers, guys that could change the game. And the first two guys I mentioned are the pass rushers that have been relentless this season coming after Cooper Rush. You got to keep them on their toes. You can't have them pin their ears back and go. Derrick Henry, Justice Hill, Keaton Mitchell are going to have to be warriors in this game. They're going to be asked to do a lot, set the tone, keep that defense at bay, and then you can set up the play action pass with Cooper Rush. That's their path to victory, and everybody knows it. Unfortunately, including D'Amico Ryans and the Houston Texans defense. So, of course, early on, they're going to be trying to stop the run. Hopefully Todd Monken doesn't get too cute, try and say, oh, well, they're going to try and stop the run. Let's use the play action pass early on first and second down, like they've done all season, and that just bite them in the butt. So the Ravens are going to have to run the football, power on power, get it done, and once they establish the run, then use Cooper Rush and those wideouts because they have weapons. They have weapons and attack that defense that way. But it really does start with the run game. Again, Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson are two guys that I am totally 100% concerned with. If they can wreck this game in a hurry, especially with the interior, they could stunt, make some moves. They could do a lot of things to attack this Ravens offense. But as long as the Ravens establish the run, which they are more than capable of doing it, I don't think there's a team in the league that can stop the Ravens run game. But maybe the Lions did a couple weeks ago. But other than that, I don't think there's a team out there that can really stop the Ravens run game. The Texans are middle of the pack in terms of run defense anyway. Ravens can go out there, establish the run, get things going. And I think they have a shot.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the Texans defense and them against the run. Right now, you're right. They're 18th in the league right now in terms of yards per attempt given up at 4.2. It's the pass defense that's strong. They're top 5 pass defense. and they're obviously the best scoring defense in the NFL now in terms of giving up the least amount of points, just 51 given up through 4 weeks. So again, you mentioned it, a lot of good players on that defense. And actually, Kadri Ismail, we talked yesterday, Q and I, about Cooper Rush and kind of what goes on with, is he gonna be different than Lamar? What's it gonna look like? Obviously, he's gonna be different. But Q and I talked for Wednesday's show, and he had some interesting insight about Cooper and kind of what the game plan should be. So I want to play that clip, and then we'll talk about the game a little bit more. What's your confidence level in Cooper Rush going out there and leading the Ravens to 1, maybe 2, maybe more wins if he has to in the absence of Lamar, because it's going to look a little different out there?
If I'm Cooper, I'm like, bro, y'all need to realize I'm not Lamar. So we're going to have somebody recognize that while Lamar might be an extended play, I'm not going to be extended play. I'm trying to get rid of this football. I know Tom Munkin is probably like, all right, but you know what? If he has to get to the line and kind of manage the game, meaning like redirect and put himself in a better position, I think that's going to be what is going to help Cooper Rush.
Game manager. I think that term gets a lot of flack because of the way that it's used these days and used to kind of tear down quarterbacks. But to me, I think that's what Cooper has to be. Yeah, you have weapons around you. Derrick, Zay, Isaiah, Mark, Rashod, etc. Like all those guys can be your friends, can help you out. You don't have to try to play hero ball. Just hit those guys, run the football. We know Derrick Henry against the Texans. He loves playing the Texans. 280 carries, 1,578 yards, and 13 touchdowns in 15 games versus the Texans. Obviously, we saw him last on Christmas Day against Houston. 27 carries for 147 yards and a touchdown in this game. There are pathways for the Ravens to win this one, Sam, but obviously I think it starts with that defense. You can't just go out there and give up points on every single drive. You're going to have to be able to get to CJ Stroud. Looks like Calvin Noy will be back with that full practice. We'll have to see on that. Pass rush, if you can't get pressure against CJ Stroud with that Texans offensive line, which is abysmal, you're probably not getting pressure all season. So this is a big moment for the defense as well.
Yeah, when you talk about a game that the Ravens need, this might be it, because you're going to need to get pressure on this offensive line of the Texans that is bad. We talk about how bad the Ravens offensive line can be at times. No, this is what bad football looks like, and that's what the Houston Texans bring. So the interior of the Ravens defensive line, I wish Madubuike was playing in this game, because I would have such a better feel for this game if Madubuike was there, because they would take full advantage of that offensive line. Now, that's not to say Travis Jones can't come in and be that guy. Travis Jones is ailing with an injury right now. We know Travis Jones doesn't really play his best when he's injured. I feel better when Travis Jones is off that injury report. But he might play in this game. Doesn't matter. The Ravens do have other interior defensive linemen. Odafe Owe, Calvin Noy, if he plays. He's raring to come back. It seems like a hungry Calvin Noy that we might get to see in this contest. They are going to be key. I think maybe the most important players on the football field for the Ravens in terms of defense this upcoming game. They have to get to CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud hasn't been a great quarterback the last 2 years. Some of it's on the offensive line, some of it's on him, but I would not want to give CJ Stroud time in the pocket to dice up this defense that seems like everybody has been able to dice up. I'm not saying CJ Stroud's Joe Flacco in terms of mobility. I'm not saying he's Joe Flacco in terms of decision-making. All I'm saying is if you can get hands on him, get a body on him, he can be had. The Ravens have had success against the Texans. I don't know if they've scored an offensive touchdown against CJ Stroud. Hasn't scored an offensive touchdown against this Ravens defense at all. Of course, this is a very different Ravens defense, but I think this team has what it takes to get after CJ Stroud, more so because of the play of the offensive line of the Texans. But if this defense can get after CJ Stroud, I think they have a pretty good chance to make some noise happen, maybe get a turnover or two, something they haven't done against a non-Browns team since who knows when. I think might have been the Texans on Christmas. Yeah, so that's insane. So the Ravens may need to re-up on those turnovers against the Texans here in Week 5.
That is crazy. I did not know that CJ Stroud has not scored an offensive touchdown. It was the safety on Christmas, and then the 3 field goals by Fairbairn in the game whenever, I forget when they played that. It was the divisional, right?
Divisional round, yeah.
Divisional. And then, so, wow. They're learning something new every day on Locked On Ravens. That's why you tune in. That's why we have Sam on. Sam, I appreciate you. Thank you for all the insight and, hey, the new information. I appreciate you popping on again. Please tell people where they can find you and what you're working on.
All right. Yeah, you can find me at Raven Sock Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, also on TikTok. Lots of great content on there. You can also find the main show, Raven Sock Podcast, on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. You can also find me on the Raven Squad Show twice a week, Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and after every game with myself, Kevin, and Kadra Ismail. So much fun, much to look forward to as far as getting ready for this upcoming matchup. And, I think the Ravens got a good shot at winning this game, Kevin. I don't know. I'm feeling pretty confident, more so than I probably should be, but we'll see what happens.
Man, you get over the loss in 1 week. You say, all right back on the saddle. Let's do this thing again.
Yeah.
I'm ready to be hurt again if they don't end up pulling it out. But there are definitely pathways to win it. They just have to, I think, use those pathways and not get too cute and go the other way, which of course would result in a loss, in my opinion. But that's all we have for you today. Thank you for everybody who tuned in, watched, and listened to the show. Again, over the weekend, we'll probably have a couple of bonus episodes for you because, man, the headlines are coming in hot. So be sure you stay tuned for everything we have coming your way. Hit the like and subscribe button in video form, follow along in audio form, and I'll see you right back here soon on Locked On Ravens.